So recently, while sitting down to Prime Video and chill, doesn't have the same ring to it, I was browsing through the documentary sections to find, to put it lightly, the absolute clusterfuck of titles available.
A life force of creation, which comes from the being some call God. The name I'm given is the Godhead.
It turns out this is not a new phenomenon. It's been going on for quite some time. Amazon Prime Video is full of dodgy documentaries pushing dangerous cancer cures, reports Wired. Quote, at its best, Prime Video's disturbing underbelly is stuffed with conspiracy theory-laden content. But at its worst, the platform's recommendation algorithms push viewers towards dangerous medical misinformation masquerading as fact. Other films available through Prime Video suggest that diseases like cancer and diabetes can be reversed by eating plants, or that cancer can be cured using unproven treatments. And if you think that's bad, in today's civilized political climate, a 2016 documentary called Vaxxed: From Cover-Up to Catastrophe is currently a top-viewed title in the American marketplace. The description reads, quote, an investigation into how the CDC, the government agency charged with protecting the health of American citizens, destroyed data on a 2004 study that showed a link between the MMR vaccine and autism. Yep, you heard that right. So, all of that got me thinking. Now might be the perfect time to contact old Lance, who used to work in the industry, and get his feedback.
So last year you may have heard in the news some talk about Netflix and their treatment of their trans employees, as well as a broader conversation because of the release of the last Dave Chappelle special.
You know, Canada's nice.
This video is not about that. If you want to know about whether or not I like Dave Chappelle, he was one of my biggest inspirations. What his most recent Netflix special did to that relationship broke my heart into 1,000 screaming suns. If you just want an analysis of the comedy featured in that video, I would suggest checking out Jesse Gender's amazing video on the topic, link in description. You probably don't need another brave little cis boy getting all up in your biz about what is acceptable in terms of comedy in relation to the trans community. I actually have an untold story about Amazon Prime, one of Netflix's main competitors, a company that's got a pretty big pass when it comes to trans issues, especially when it involves one of the largest and most talented trans creators of all time.
So...
Yes, dear viewer, that's right. A few years ago, I worked with none other than Contrapoints. I've never been a big fan of people that need to flex their bona fides just to prove they're a true leftist. Socialism is when house. But needless to say, I've had a lot of different jobs in my life. I've worked in construction, I've worked as a dishwasher, I've worked in 2 different fast food movie theater chains.
Why don't you sit down and shut up?
What? Why don't I sit down and what?
I said, why don't you sit down and shut up?
Why don't anybody who wants me to sit down and shut up come down here and make me? Why don't any 50 of you who want me to sit down and shut up come down here just for the fun of it?
Before becoming one of the lower tier dumpster fire pundits on the internet, I was working full-time for a production company uploading digital copies of a variety of shows. They had acquired a vast catalog of low-tier disaster and crime documentaries that sold surprisingly well in the online marketplace. What started with a few key players had grown into a full-scale entertainment war with countless studios battling for content supremacy. The strategy employed by whoever you want to deem the Axis or the Allies was quite simple. Who controls the catalog controls the world. Or in less hyperbolic terms, a combination of groundbreaking original series with addictive libraries was the best course to secure a dedicated subscriber base. The bar for entry on Netflix was nearly impossible unless you had an established franchise or knew someone on the inside to pitch a show. Surprisingly, Amazon Prime took an entirely different approach.
Gates and Buffett, amateurs can fucking suck it, fuck their wives, drink their blood. Come on, Jeff, get him!
They copied the strategy of their peers by pouring large amounts of money into proprietary series, but also wanted to catch up on Hulu and Netflix's already vast catalog of licensed franchises. You didn't need to know any industry insiders. Amazon Prime featured an online portal anybody could use to submit their movies and TV shows for distribution. Before jumping on the Jeff Bezos' wrinkled testicle Lex Luthor wannabe who exploits his workers so badly that they piss and shit in bottles so he can join the space dildo race, I do want to point out how accessible something like Amazon Prime Market was for indie producers and distributors. Naturally, we took full advantage. The barrier for entry was unfathomably low.
I'm not exaggerating when I say I uploaded and distributed numerous series that have no place being on a professional distribution service.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Eventually, I realized I could even submit YouTube videos and they would be accepted, and thus began the next chapter in this lukewarm saga. I had already begun crafting leftist content for YouTube in what was quickly becoming known as BreadTube. Our channel had grown to a decent size, and I was contemplating making the leap to working full-time as a worthless online political personality. It also dawned on me with my knowledge and experience I could work on getting larger creators than myself distributed on Prime. One of the first people to express interest was Natalie Wynn.
I'm Natalie, creator of Contrapoints. And no, I'm not a cat girl, I'm a cat woman. I'm sorry you're intimidated by that. Look, I'm tired of only being valued for my petite, heterosexual body. I'd like to be recognized for my worth as a mother, as a wife, and as a woman with values. Just kidding, I'm trash.
After some negotiating, we agreed to split the profits of the series, and I would work full-time in packaging the entire thing for Amazon Prime. A lot of work went into formatting all the episodes to meet their encoding requirements, developing the art and banners for the channel, and eventually creating an official trailer for the series.
You know what? Fuck that. Let's listen to house music and do sex drugs.
As much as I'd like to posture that the whole experience was just par for the course, I'd be lying if I didn't say how thrilling it was to work with Zoe Blade directly on the score for the trailer for Natalie's final approval.
The process of getting on Amazon Prime is a relatively simple one.
Your series must meet their technical guidelines, which includes having industry standard subtitles, quality thumbnails and descriptions, and finally, an overall decent encoding quality in HD format. Once you've packed and uploaded all the required documents, you then pass through a series of quality checks. These are often highly specific in the vein of episode 8 has a lower than normal bitrate, please correct. The first correction we received was that the rating of the series was too low. Since no YouTube channel is evaluated by the MPAA, it's standard operating procedure to use generic ratings, and in the case of Contrapoints, I had attempted to make it PG.
Contrapoints' entire series contains no nudity, so obviously this was a really weird thing to me.
But it did deal with some heavy themes, so I completely understood the need to make it 14A, or the equivalent of PG-13. It was then rejected a second time because they required me to give it the highest rating of 18+, which seemed completely inappropriate. Contrapoints' entire series contains no nudity, and while it discusses issues such as transphobia and suicide, it contains nothing that would warrant such a high rating.
What do we do now? How do we prove we're valid? Well, just do what every trans woman has done since the beginning of time. Go out and fuck the most brutally heterosexual man you can find and be validated and come. Oh, honey, I have and I will.
There's also very little communication from Amazon in regards to the process, and I would only get generic pre-written responses such as, to assist with the clearing error, please update the suggestion rated into 18+. Not to be deterred, Natalie agreed to go forward with the 18+ rating on the series, and the rest of the changes were mostly cosmetic until we had finally passed the quality control phase of the process. In my previous experience, that meant it was only a matter of weeks before it goes live, and we both started preparing for the release and how she would use her social media reach to promote the series.
And then out of nowhere, Amazon outright rejected the series.
And while it's well within their right to reject the series based on any criteria they see fit, I can't stress enough how low the bar had been for every other show I had submitted successfully to the platform. This was the first rejection I had ever experienced in all my years of doing digital distribution, and I successfully submitted a series that was just a street performer in New York talking about starting a fart revolution. I had uploaded a travel vlog that I filmed with a cell phone, and if I was to compare that to any of the Contrapoints work, I'm not sure which one of us would be more embarrassed.
I'm sure they were doing their best. It's very good, sweetie. I'll hang it up on the refrigerator for you.
As a final strategy, I decided to go with a third-party distributor. Distribution companies often have direct partnerships with streaming services and are able to perform enough quality control to ensure that every title they prepare for distribution, at a cost to them, will meet their guidelines. Based on her prolific profile, they were immediately interested and went to work updating slight changes in quality in order to ensure there'd be no reason from a technical standpoint that Amazon would reject the series. After a couple of weeks of preparation, we were once again preparing for the series release, only to find it rejected a second time. Their official statement is that they were no longer accepting unsolicited content for short-form content types, which strikes me as odd considering most Contrapoints videos are longer than 30 minutes in length.
The story's kind of anticlimactic because that's kind of the end of it. Like, nothing more has come from it.
You got your baited, clickbait.
Everyone involved spent a large amount of time working in a variety of fields, and of course, there's never any guarantees any series will be picked up for distribution. Their terms of service clearly outline that they can reject a series for whatever reason, and in a company that size, it's completely realistic that no one will get a personalized response as to why. While it took a long time, Amazon Prime now features a handful of trans-related titles. Danger and Eggs is a children's series with queer characters written by a trans woman. The first series to gain notoriety on the platform was Transparent, which features trans women playing trans characters and boasted having the largest trans production crew of any series to date. Yet outside of a few other queer characters appearing in occasional roles, the selection isn't vast. Their trans documentary section is even more lacking. At the time of writing this, within the Canadian catalog there's only 3 documentaries available: The Aggressives, Young Trans and Looking for Love, and Man-Made. There are other titles available, but only as part of the extended packages you have to pay more to obtain.
There's certainly a necessary void to be filled, and it's one that I would argue could benefit greatly from having someone like Contrapoints in their catalog. But I guess it's just one of those things. We'll never know what kind of role she could have played.
A penis and a sausage cannot make a baby. Checkmate the gays. It's just science.
So before we conclude this sordid tale, I do want to lampshade a couple quick points. The first being, oh sure, Serfs, you call yourself leftists and yet you were trying to get the Contrapoints distributed on Amazon Prime? Did you know that it's owned by none other than Jeffrad Benzine, the richest human on Earth? Don't you know he makes his workers piss on each other or something? Yes, I'm very aware that we live in a society, TM and the spectacle and all of that. Did you know you're literally watching this video on YouTube, owned by Alphabet? I don't think that Sundar Pichai is a benevolent CEO either, and Google and their AI is most not certainly what the kids call poggies. I think it's more valuable to have leftist content on either network that teaches people to be less transphobic, rather than whatever the hell this is.
Vertically integrated command and control authoritarian system does this. So they're openly following what the same group of banks did in Germany, Russia. You know, it's in the Communist Manifesto to have a private central bank.
Second, why is this a story at all? After all, you said yourself Amazon could reject your series for whatever reason, and if it's the only thing that ever got rejected for content, maybe they just don't accept YouTube videos anymore. After all, the network has come a long way from the early days. And to be honest, you might have a point. Except for the fact that as a test before the release of this video, I tried distributing one of my most recent projects, Gamergate The Untold Story, on their network, and wouldn't you know it, it just got accepted. And I put a ton of work and research into that documentary, and I'm very proud of it, but again, I would humbly emphasize that I'm no Contrapoints, and if I can get a video on their network that starts with the line,
Boobs are awesome.
then surely they're ready for some goddamn mouthfeel.
You brave little cis boy.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, It doesn't matter what I believe. It only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.